So welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. Today, we're going to be looking at the question, does God exist? Right? And notice that this is not a question on whether Christianity is true or unification thought is true. I want you to see that difference, okay? So this is a purely philosophical and scientific question. It's not a question of whether a particular set of religious beliefs are true, okay? Okay, with that being said, let's get started. But before I ask this question, does God exist? I want to first ask the question, why is this question even important at all, right? I don't care if God exists or not, right? Why should I care if, right? It's an if, right? That's what we're gonna look at today. If God exists or not. Well, I think the question, does God exist or not, is incredibly important. And here's why. From you and I to the highest level philosophers who contemplate on the nature of reality, there are 5 main questions that people ask. These are called the 5 big questions, right? So what are these questions? They are questions such as origin, where do I come from? Identity, who am I in this world? Meaning, why am I here? And then morality, how should I live or orient my life? And finally, destiny, where am I going and what is my end goal? Okay, but you may ask, so what? But so what, right? What does that have to do with God? That's a great question. Well, it's incredibly important because the question of whether God exists or not has tremendous impact on the major questions of life. In fact, the question, does God exist or not, may be the most important question, right? And you'll see this throughout the resulting slides. Let's see. So origin, again, that is, where do we come from? Where do we stem from? So did nothing create everything? Or is there something or someone that has created us? Identity, again, who am I? If there's a creator who has created me, doesn't that have tremendous impact on who I am or implications, right? Meaning, why am I here? Am I just a cosmic accident? Or was there and is there a purpose to my existence? Next, morality. How should I live? Or how should I orient my life? Why should I abide to a set of moral principles? How should I orient my life again? The question of whether God exists or not affects that also, right? And finally, destiny. Again, where are we going? Where am I going? What is my destiny or end goal, or in Greek, telos, right? What am I moving towards? So, as you can see, the question of whether God exists or not is incredibly important to answer all of life's biggest questions. Again, origin, identity, morality, meaning, and destiny. And all worldviews must have an answer for these types of the big questions of life, right? And even atheism has answers to these kinds of big questions. This is why we ask, is there evidence to suggest that God exists? So this is a brief overview right here. First, we're going to argue that the universe began to exist. And we're going to take a look at this by proving, first philosophically, and then scientifically, that shows that the universe came into being from nothing. And then we're going to extrapolate that and say, what could cause a universe to begin to exist? This is a fascinating argument. Secondly, we're going to take a look at the fine-tuning argument and argue, given the fine-tuned nature of the universe, there must be a fine-tuner. Okay? And finally, we're going to take a look at the moral argument, arguing that since there's a objective foundation for morality, there must be a moral lawgiver. So we'll take a look at all these three arguments here. But before I go on, I just want to preface that this is a very introductory path into Christian apologetics. And this is not even getting to Christianity, right? This is just generic theism that we're trying to get to today. I want to emphasize that one more time. So, this is just like the top of the iceberg, so to speak, where like 10% of the iceberg is shown on top of the water where you can see it, but 95% still remains submerged underwater. So this is a very introductory presentation. And each of these arguments go on for years and years and books upon scholarly articles upon articles. So this is, again, an introductory lecture. But, yes.
So what is an argument?
An argument just means to prove something, right? You can, I don't know, like say you're having like an argument on whether the clock should be there or not, right? Clock should be there. You would give sound reasons on why the clock should be there, and you would look at the other side too, right, on why it should not be there. So if I understand it correctly, your question, it's just trying to prove something, right? Yeah. But let's keep going. Thank you for the question. So as I was saying, these three arguments, although independent, right, they stand alone. When combined, you'll see the power and strength of these three arguments.